Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings YouTube Atheist Community and Debate Fun. Yes. So anyway, the debate last night was kind of weak, especially the first couple of hours. Then Piero showed up, and yeah, so we talked a bit. Some of it was useful, I think. We're still talking about this idea of how to create some sort of real value on the internet when it comes to this conversational debate, philosophy, programming thing. Not only programming in the how to, let's build the tools, let's build the instrumentality that makes it valuable for people to play along, and to create the programming in terms of the content that is rich enough for somebody to just watch. And to create more opportunities for participation in terms of editorializing and qualifying or opining in kind of straightforward ways that help also index the content and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of places to take this kind of thing, just because there is, the internet is quite lame, in terms of the added value. It's really short on that. It just turns everything into cheese and crackers. It's all snack food. And I think you can make something with a lot more depth and integrity, but you can still make it tasty to the the appetites of the human that wants to see some, wants something to invest in, something a little dramatic, a little, like a sport, like all the things that do drive people when it comes to what they qualify as entertainment. Good versus evil, kind of, create a little bit of a Jedi, Darth Vader atmosphere, get people invested so they have a stake, and, something to, feel connected to it, and make it real enough to be worth us doing, and fake enough, fun enough, for people to find it compelling and interesting. I mean, this whole idea of win-win. You want to create entertainment that's also educational, informative, elevating, enlightening, and all that kind of crap. You want to get there the fun way, if possible. If there's a way to do it and make it so it's easy and fun, then yeah, let's do it that way. It's like the educational system. You want to educate kids, make it profitable, not complicated. So anyway, I'll do that subject later. That'll be one of the round table things. Round table's kind of stalled, but it's not. I'm a long way from giving up on it. Do have a couple of new participants, which is great. And we'll just see if we can make something out of it. I mean, it takes time. I'm doing some editing on the free will video and get that subject kind of closed up. But there's no permanent closing. Just put it on the shelf for a little bit and see what comes along, kind of idea. If somebody adds on, I can always, re-engage the conversation, and we'll get there. I think it's got the foundation of it is good, and so the logistics. The last subject sort of got messed up a little bit. It was supposed to be civilization, and it's kind of turned into economics, which are two different subjects. Not that economics isn't a huge part of how you define your civilization. Obviously, it's a huge player. But I was getting more at the idea of the systems of governance, how you decide policy, decide what your economic policy is going to be, all that kind of stuff, how you implement your democracy or your whatever you want to call it, your republic or your whatever the choice of words is. It's that kind of system I wanted to get to. As I had proposed my own description of a more ideal democracy. Anyway, so things are mushing along little by little, and we'll see what happens. I didn't see Lone Cat in Stickham last night, so maybe that's why he's not around. He's not around because he's sort of it's his turn on most all of the subjects, but like I say, a little bit of time is good because I got to do some catching up. Last night I did bail kind of early because the Tiny Chat crashes around 4:30, whatever it is, and you can't get back in for like a half an hour. So I decided to take a nap, and I did set the alarm. I did wake up, but I just didn't feel like going back, so I didn't. So sorry to those people who hung around. My apologies. I should have at least gone back and said I'm not coming back, but I just thought that would be kind of silly. So I just kind of weaseled out. And I wasn't in, sometimes you're just not in the right mood at the right time and all that crap. And I just haven't been in the right mood to do things right. And, hey, how you doing? So anyway, what else is news? And I've had, Ludite made some kind of jerky little video. Just some sort of, I don't know what it was. I haven't been paying attention. I'm just going to ignore him. There's nothing else to do. And I have a little bit of this fight with Conference Report over how complicated reality is. Or whether let's concede it's complicated. There's like a million rocks right here. If I wanted to know where every one of them was, it'd be really a laborious, complicated task. But we know the idea of rocks on the ground is not very complicated. So, in talking about the themes that drive the engines of the universe, I would certainly argue the mechanisms are simple and crude, easily understood, easily juggled, and as ideas and concepts, and no need to aggrandize and pretend, that every notion in the head of a human is some kind of brilliant thing, because it's not. The fact that we're ambitious is interesting. What we're ambitious for is usually not interesting. It's that kind of thing. Fact is, we generate desire. What we desire doesn't really matter. The generation of the need is really the game to be discussed, I think. The only thing that's really important, and what's the extent of the credibility of this thing we call satisfaction or gratification. Are our victories meaningful? Do they have real integrity? Are these wars worth fighting, kind of thing? It's all great to be sitting there with your sword in the air and the vanquished losers covering the ground. But if it's a war for, who gets the biggest Twinkie, that's stupid. And I'm afraid that if you analyze much of what the human race is doing, these are shallow victories at insanely nonsensical cost of vanquished blood and guts, horror, suffering, nastiness. So anyway, and I haven't seen the counter argument to that fundamental argument. Anyway, what else is news? That's about it, right? There's not too many people making videos. a little bit of a rough time, content-wise. Little things are a little thin, and that's a little disappointing. But, have to work on it. See if we can get more people involved or something, and new blood or whatever, something. Yeah, got to make something happen. So I'm motivated still. I'm just getting fatigued, and tired, and impatient, and frustrated. But I keep plugging away and see what happens. So, I am trying to get into a fight with the skeptical heretic if possible. He's just so obnoxious that, it'd be fun. It's kind of like the Snake Plisskenus scenario. They got the gift of gab, so to speak, but, and they're going to do a little witty, comebacky crap. But on substance, it's kind of style over substance kind of a thing. Nice little sentence structure, but the sentences are kind of hollow. So anyway, see if I can get him on some kind of philosophical subject rather than just politics. And what else? I'm not going to bother with edible napalm, not unless I see something coherent. To continually, he's just so stupid. He still isn't dealing with the subject. Replacing the cigarette tax is not the issue. The cigarette taxes were nothing for 50 years. It was a minor, insignificant tax. And then 10 or 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was, they started giving huge tax breaks to the rich, and they didn't have any way to pay for them. So they went out and looked and said, well, we can raise these fees, and so, hey, let's raise the tax on cigarettes. And they found out that, hey, they're a completely, integrated, and they're completely spread out across the country and have no voting power whatsoever. There's no, heavily populated city full of cigarette smokers. So they have no representation in government whatsoever. And we can just exploit the fuck out of them, and they won't be able to do a damn thing about it. And that was the realization. And if they put a kid on the poster and talked about secondhand smoke and some other bogus bullshit, they could get away with it. Well, they also have been juicing the numbers forever on how bad cigarette smoking is. It's the only thing killing human beings on earth, cigarettes, which is such a joke. Because every death, every lung or heart-related death was always blamed on, if the person smoked, even if they quit 20 years ago, and they died of pneumonia, they blame cigarettes. It's just a joke. So it's nothing even close to any kind of accurate or real science, except for the stuff that goes more deep into life expectancy. But even those numbers, as edible napalm has pointed out, accidentally, by pointing out that cigarette smokers drink alcohol at a higher proportion than the average citizen, that they do a lot of other risk behaviors. And so the fact is, cigarette smokers die younger for more than just the reason that they smoke cigarettes. They also die younger because a higher percentage of cigarette smokers are farmers, so they inhale a lot of particulates. Cigarette smokers are usually laborers, so they inhale cement and chemicals and all kinds of other stuff on the workplace, asbestos. Lots of people who died of asbestos were cigarette smokers. Just happens to work out that way. There's a real impact on your life expectancy if you smoke cigarettes, but maybe half of that impact is probably related to all the other vices that cigarette smokers tend to indulge in with more frequency. So anyway, it just makes the propaganda just that, propaganda. The government's lying. plain and simple. And the very idea of taxing liberty out of availability is so fundamentally obnoxious to the word American. Nobody should find that acceptable. That rich people should be able to do something and poor people shouldn't because of the tax you place on it. And that's the truth of it. When 90% of the cost of something is taxes, I'm sorry, you have left the American building completely, totally. Well, anyway, for Napalm to defend it just proves he's just so petty that he's going to cling to this because his buddy told him it's un-American, it's okay. Taxing vices is okay. I mean, extraordinary taxes. Cruel and unusual taxation is okay. And so he just has to somehow defend the idea, even though it logically is an indefensible position from a political science point of view. It makes no sense. It's not consistent with American history, the writing of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's just totally obnoxious to the truth. Anyway, I didn't mean to get on that rag, but it'll oblige Napalm to make probably another incoherent, babbling, rambling clown video. That's what he sort of is to me now. He's just one of the fat clowns. Anyway, till next time and such, and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, I believe this is enough. Probably is something else I wanted to get to, but hell with it. Not too bad. Leaf-wise here. Yeah. I'll do some work and get on with my day and such.